Hi there, this is Gina Lehane. I'm going to be looking at some super horoscopes for you today, those of David Cameron and Ed Miliband. Now, I'm using Vedic astrology, and I've been practicing astrology for over 35 years, mostly Western astrology, but during the last 15 years, lots and lots of Vedic. So I thought it'd be really interesting if we just have a look at what's going on for David Cameron and for Ed Miliband in this exciting run-up to the UK election. Now, I just want to say what made me do this video was actually David Cameron has just experienced an eclipse cycle on his ascending signs here. Now, that, if anything else, indicates a huge change in his status. And this eclipse was on his Sun and on his Venus and on Saturn here. So that sparked me to think, what's going to happen to Cameron? Is he just going to roll ahead over maybe Ed Miliband's backside? Or maybe not. Maybe something amazing is going to happen. And during the last week or so, we've seen things shifting in the UK. And so I thought, I've absolutely got to draw up two horoscopes here, and I've got to compare them. So here they are. So this is a video for those of you who do astrology, and particularly if you do Vedic astrology. So let's get started. There's some really cool stuff to look at here, I can tell you right now. Okay, let's zoom in, I suggest, onto David Cameron's horoscope, and let's see what we can find here. Okay, David Cameron. Well, the first thing is that his actual birth time is slightly varied. It just depends where you look for it. I've seen it as 6 o'clock and I've seen it as 5 to 6. And now this doesn't make a lot of difference here, but you know, when we start to look at D9 and some other Varga charts, we are going to see some huge differences. Still, let's just go with this chart. Okay, so 6 o'clock on the 9th of October 66 in London. Alright, so the first thing is Virgo is here rising, and Sun and Venus are in the rising sign. Now that is an amazing combination for charm and suaveness, but Venus is actually debilitated in Virgo, which can lead to various things, but most of all it can lead to a certain insincerity sometimes coming forward. Okay? But let's look at a very exciting thing here, because when we assess anybody's horoscope, one of the first things that we need to do is we need to see where is the ruling planet placed. And the ruler here of Virgo is Mercury, of course, and it's here conjunct to Ketu. Mercury conjunct to Ketu. We've got to zoom in on that one. Mercury conjunct Ketu in the second house. Well, what does this mean? Well, various things. First of all, it could mean a certain deviousness and underhandedness and all sorts of nasty things going on. It could also mean that he's got superb skills, you know, from a past life, a communication skills. He could also be very devious from a past life. So I'll leave you to see how that is. We're not saying he's not a great guy, but it's interesting that that's his ruling planet and it's conjunct to the South Node. That's quite a heavy thing, and it means that loads of things that are here for David Cameron are actually due to past karma. Okay. The next thing I notice is that he has Mars in the 12th house here. Now, Mars in this house can lead to a certain secretiveness, a certain fear of confrontation, because Mars is the warrior planet and Mars is hidden away in the 12th house here, fearful of any confrontation, fearful of a fight. And of course, you could say, well, I'm just bringing that up now because that has come to the fore. No, there it is. It's in his birth chart. Okay? Saturn is in Pisces in the 7th house. Really good stuff here in that Saturn is in a very strong place here because it's in the west of the chart, and that's a very strong place for Lord Shani to be. And this means that actually he's a very loyal individual, and he means well because Saturn here is in this sign of the universal good. He wants to do good for people. He wants to be universally benefiting everybody. Yeah, he actually does. Okay, so that's David Cameron. And of course, yes, he has the moon conjunct Jupiter in the 11th house, and the moon is very strong in his own sign. So he's got a good deal of luck, a good deal of good fortune from, really from here, which is his birth. So he was born into a very good status in life. Okay, well, that's David Cameron. Let's move on to Ed Miliband. And we see him there. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Here's Ed for you. Ed Miliband. Well, we have a completely different situation here. Saturn is in the 1st house in Aries. Now, Saturn is not strong in Aries, and it's not happy in the 1st house. What have we got here then? We've got a very ambitious, very assertive individual who feels held back. He feels held back by lots of things, but he feels that he can't really be his self. And I think one of the things that maybe we've seen with Ed Miliband is that he doesn't smile a lot. He seems very serious, and that's all about Saturn there. But actually, when he does smile, I think it was recently in the Guardian newspaper, when he does smile, he's very appealing. So Ed Miliband, you've got to smile, babe, you've got to smile. But Saturn makes a very serious individual here, a very earnest individual, but someone who's got a problem because Mars and Saturn energies don't go very well. And where is Mars? Where is the ruling planet? It's in the 11th house. That's a very favourable thing. But who is it with? Rahu, the north node of the moon. Mars and Rahu. Now that is a tremendously ambitious combination. In fact, I would say that Mars is quite okay here because Mars is in Aquarius and Mars wants to do good for everybody, but Rahu Mars is quite selfish, quite ambitious, quite determined, and really interestingly he came to power with the help of, have a guess who? The unions ruled by Aquarius. So, but what did he do after that? Did he do much for the unions? No, because Rahu is all about selfish ambition. I'm not trying to put you down here, Ed, but we know what you're about here. Mars and Rahu means a very ambitious person, but there is a very good side to it in that Mars wants to do good. It really wants to fight for the underdog. That's Aquarius. So that's a good thing, but don't underestimate Milliband. He is really ambitious and he's a fighter. He's a fighter despite the fact he appears to be held back and slow at times and almost like a taciturn individual. No, he's a fighter. He's coming out there all guns. Okay. What else can we say about Ed Miliband? Well, Saturn is the ruler of his 10th house, which is also the Capricorn, and it's in the 1st house. That's a very successful thing, which makes him very independent. Okay, so he's a real fighter and he's very independent. I think I also would like to stress that he has this stellium here of the Sun, Mercury and Venus, which is not unusual. Many of us have them like this, really, near to each other. There's not a combustion, but they are Mercury, I think is furthest away here. Let me just have a little check on that. Yeah, that's the Atmakarka planet actually, Mercury, which I'm going to be coming back to soon. But this is about his dad, because the ninth house, at least for the Vedic astrologers, has often got to do with the father. So he's got a huge influence from his dad here, which of course we know. And he's also a hugely idealistic person, because Sun here makes him absolutely determined to help the underdog. And of course it's a Raj Yoga here, because it rules here, 5th house, and it's in the 9th house. So he's a very idealistic individual, and he's more than determined to help everybody, because he's got really a fantastic vision. The problem is that he finds it hard to put that over to people because of Saturn in the 1st house. Poor old Ed, that's the problem. Very high ideals and a real visionary. Of course, that's what Sagittarius is all about. Okay. Now let's get down to some predictions. What's going on in their Dasha periods and what's going to happen during the next few months. Okay, back to David Cameron. David Cameron is in his Venus Dasha. Venus here, fantastically placed, 1st house near the sun. It's been a great 20 years for David Cameron. But guess what? In the next 4 months or so, depending on the birth time, of course, which may not be 6 o'clock, it may be a little bit earlier. So any time between now and July, he is going to enter his new Dasha, which is the Sun Dasha. Now, for a Virgo rising individual, Venus Dasha is an excellent time generally, and certainly for him, with it being here near the sun, you know, rising, a powerful planet. But Sun Dasha is not good for Virgo. No. Sun Dasha for a Virgo rising, a Virgo lagna person, is not helpful. And as we're going to see when I look at the other Varga charts, this is more than shown that he's going to be struggling now. And he's actually at the end of his Dasha. Now, when anybody comes to the end of their Dasha period, they are going to struggle to start something new. I can't see him leading a government at the end of his Venus Dasha. And what is he in? He's in Venus Ketu. Venus Ketu. So this is about loss. This is about renunciation. He's been speaking about retiring. He's been speaking about not going for a 3rd term. That's his mood now. But you don't start a great thing in your life when you're at the end of your Venus Dasha. You might start a good relationship or something cozy like that, but I can't see that he's really going to form a government at the end of his Venus Dasha. I just don't see it. And Sun Dasha, well, let's just have a look at that for a second or two, okay? Sun Dasha for Cameron is the ruler of his 12th house. The 12th house of loss, of renunciation, of retirement. So, and this is another 7 years of this. So David, I think things are going to take a different turn for you during the next year or so. And even if he does come into power, I can't see him lasting there for more than a year. I don't see things working out for David Cameron right now. He's moving to a new Dasha, a new phase in his life. But what really brought me, of course, to look at David Cameron's chart was this eclipse cycle, which has just occurred on his Sun and his Venus, which is his Dasha, and Saturn. Again, that's a sure sign of an ending and a new beginning to his life. Okay, well, that's David Cameron. And I just want to say one more thing here, because it's actually quite good for Vedic astrologers if we look at the moon chart. Now, where's his moon? His moon is here. And if we want to look at a transit, it's really nice to look where Shani is now, Saturn is now. Well, here's the moon, and Saturn is now in Scorpio here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 signs away. That's not a favourable Gochara transit. And in fact, when he did come into power, when he did become our Prime Minister, Saturn was here in the 3rd from the moon, 1, 2, 3. Now that's a very favourable transit. That's a time of ambition, success, new ventures. All the obstacles are removed when Shani is 3rd from the moon, but 5th from the moon, heavy going. So it's not a good time. I will say, in case you're saying, oh, jumping up and down now, but Jupiter is in Cancer. Yes, it is. It's here with the moon, and that's a very favourable thing, but it's short term. It's for 1 year only, and by July, that will be gone this year. But this is here for at least 1.5 years more. So, no, I think another thing there that says that it's not a favourable time for Cameron to achieve his ambitions. Well, let's go on to David Miliband now. And what wonders do we see here? Well, first of all, he is in his Mercury Dasha. And Mercury is in the 9th house of fortune. Wow, that's good. And another thing about it is that it's not a particularly good thing for Aries lagna, but because it's powerful here in the 9th house, I know it's not in Gemini, it's in Sagittarius, but still, it's a really strong place to have Mercury. And it really indicates that this is a mixed dasha for Ed Miliband. It's not wonderful, it's not a perfect dasha, and another thing is that this is his Atmakarka planet. Now, for those of you who don't know much about Vedic astrology, the Atmakarka is the sole reason for being here, okay? It's the karma that you are here to face. So this is the most important time of his entire life, Mercury Dasha. And always when we got the Atmakarka Dasha, we do find that things go up and down, that things can be very, hard and challenging and rather disruptive, because we do have to face things that are really from our last lives. I don't want to talk a lot about reincarnation here, but I think those of us who do Vedic astrology are fine with this. But if you're not, let's just say maybe from his childhood, there's some issues here with his dad coming up and his ideals and having to bend those ideals. But the main thing is he's in a better dasha than David is, because really for Ed Miliband, this is a chance to prove that he is a master of his destiny. And actually, what I also notice here for Ed Miliband is that he's in a Mercury Moon Dasha, Moon Bhukti, Mercury Moon. So what is amazing for him is that he's become popular. Popularity is booming. 7 houses, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mercury Moon. And who is he popular with? I'll tell you. It's the women. Woohoo! The moon. Yeah, he's gaining popularity though, not just with women, but he's gaining popularity because people are seeing that he's real, that he means well, that he's got a genuine sense of idealism. And apart from the fact that he's not smiling a lot, as we've just been discussing, this Mercury Moon is making him a popular guy now, and that has to be good for him. Now, what about the Gochara? Here's the interesting stuff. Okay, just to zoom out there. Now, the Gochara, where's his moon? Here's his moon is here. And let's go around. Where is Shani is here now. Okay, the 8th Scorpio. That's where Shani is now for Vedic astrologers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses away. This is a super duper Shani Gochara transit. This is one of the best Gochara transits for Lord Shani. And the other one, of course, is when you've got it in the 3rd house. And have a guess who came into power then. As I've said, that was for Cameron. He came into power, just Here again, when we had Shani 1, 2, 3 here in Virgo. So, 3rd house Shani, 6th house and 11th house are superb Gochara. So, as I say, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shani, Scorpio. And what does this do? Well, Shani removes enemies. Shani in the 6th house from the moon defeats your enemies. Woo! Defeats the enemies, and not just David Cameron, any enemy, the enemy within. It defeats your own fear. So it's a great place, and it brings you new allies, so that's going to be interesting. So it's a great time for David Miliband. Of course, in a year or two, Shani's going to move over here, which won't be so good, and here to Astam Shani, which is really, really sort of heavy, but that's about 5 or 6 years, or even, maybe even 7 years. Anyway, it's a good 6 years away, so let's worry about that now. He's in a great time. So the Dasha is mixed. It's Mercury Dasha, it's the Atmakarka Dasha, it's a heavy, challenging time. But the Gochara is favourable. Now, where is Jupiter? Well, Jupiter's here, okay? And this is not so favourable. Actually, no, I make a mistake. I take it all back. I'm reading from this ascendant. I mustn't do that. I'm reading from the moon. 2nd from the moon is extremely favourable too. So 2 up there to Ed Miliband, a fantastic Shani from the moon and a fantastic Jupiter, Guru, from the moon. In his own sign, 2nd from the moon. Wow, this is power, this is success, this is really going for it time. So he should open all the doors. He needs to smile. He just needs to smile. Okay? Now, I think it might be also good if we have a quick look at some D10 charts as well, okay, because if you do Vedic astrology you will understand that we have many Varga charts as well. And let's again, I've just noticed, I've got David Cameron on the left and Ed Miliband on the right, and that's just by chance, of course. Let's just forget about that. Here's the D10 chart now for Cameron, and let me just zoom a little bit there. Okay, let's just zoom in a little bit, shall we, for D10 for Cameron. Okay, now when we're looking here, let's just look at his dashas, okay? So for Cameron, and this is about ambition, this is about success in life, this is the chart for how successful you are. Well, let's leave where he's been, let's just look at where he is now. And obviously, when we're looking at this chart now, we see that the sun, that is his new dasha, is in the 6th house. Now, if he was born 5 minutes earlier, then it might not be there, it might be here. But generally speaking, it's not a strong place, okay? And then I can also say for David Cameron that why he was so successful during his Venus Dasha is because Venus, yes, I've used the Western astrology sign here. I'm sorry, that means Venus, obviously. Venus and Mars. Mars is the ruler of the 10th house in the D10, and it's with Venus. He's had his day. His day was the Venus Dasha. That was his most successful time in his entire life. Hey, David, don't fret. You're going to have some great times, but this was your power time. Not this time. So that has gone. Let's go to David Miliband with the D10 chart. Here we are. Oh, sorry. Did I just say David Miliband? Good gracious me. I meant Ed Miliband. Ed Miliband then. Let's have a look. My God, he's got such an incredible D10 chart. I mean, it is truly incredible. If you do Vedic astrology, you'll notice all the planets are here in the Kendra houses. It is so incredibly strong. This guy is not a guy to underestimate, but he's a conflicted guy, but he's not to underestimate. Mercury Rahu rising in Virgo. Milliband, you are very intelligent, Mercury Rahu, and you are ruthless, okay? I want to talk about the brother actually soon. I'm going to go back to that later, but I just want to stay with the present, okay? He's a ruthless guy. And he's very ambitious and very motivated. Mercury rules the 10th house in the D10. So this is his moment because it's his Mercury Dasha. So what could be more clear than that? Mercury is here with Rahu. Now, think about it being there is that this could go two ways because Rahu can give huge ambition and then a huge fall. So a fall from power might be happening within the Mercury Dasha, but I don't think it's going to be happening yet. Okay. And of course the moon, and he's in the Mercury moon cycle now, is with Venus and Jupiter in a wonderful place in the 4th house. Incredibly strong. He's coming into his own, and there's absolutely no doubt about it. Let's have a look at the Navamsha chart now, okay, because I finally want to look at this chart. And Navamsha chart is a chart of fortune, and it's a chart of your luck. And let's have a look at these Navamsha charts, because David Cameron's Navamsha chart is quite interesting when we look at the dashas, because he was in the Venus Dasha here, very strongly placed in Taurus, and it was superb for him in absolutely every way, because Venus is with Mars, which is the ruler of the 9th house. Scorpio is the 9th house in the Navamsha chart, and the 9th house in the D9 chart is the most important house, fortune house. So his fortune time, again, here it is again repeated, was in his Venus Dasha. What about the sun? It's with Saturn, it's with Shani, oh no! And what does Shani rule? It rules the 11th, it rules the 12th house, Aquarius. Again, a 12th house thing. A Sun Dasha means retirement. The Sun Dasha does not mean getting into power and lasting very long. Let's see what it is for Ed Miliband. Wow. He's in his Mercury Dasha. And it is conjunct to Jupiter, the most superb planet in Sagittarius, its own sign. His Mercury Dasha is going to be successful for him. There is little doubt of that. Of course, it's the Atmakarka. And again, this may be due to the karma of his last life, or you could just say he's living out his ideals, which is Jupiter. Okay? But it's a fantastic sign, very much compared to Cameron's, because I really do have to say that Mercury and Jupiter in Sagittarius is luck personified, okay, and it's in the 5th house. He's a lucky guy during this Mercury Dasha. He's had really lucky breaks, okay. However, it is nice to have a look at the sun here, because the sun is the ruler of the Navamsha, and it's with Saturn, Shani again, holding him back, and making him serious, ambitious, but somewhat inhibited. We have to say that, somewhat inhibited. Okay. So, if I had to sum it all up, and I had to put my money on anybody here, well, it has to go with Milliband. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Even if he doesn't for a government, even if this is not a government for David Miliband, I keep on saying David Miliband, for Ed Miliband, there is no doubt that he is in a very successful Dasha time and very successful Gochara time. And even if, I know you're all jumping up and down and saying, but look where Shani is, it's in the 8th house of his natal chart. I'm going to tell you a great secret. This is a great place from the lagna to have shani. I know it's in Scorpio, but that's the same for everybody right now. But this is a great place. And why is that? Well, because it's the 11th house from the 10th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The 11th from the 10th is achievement of lifelong ambition. So I'm not saying he's going to form a majority government. That would be insane. I'm not going to say he isn't going to struggle, because he's in his Mercury Dasha and it's Atmakarka Dasha. But I'm saying that of the two, this guy has got the chance to form a government, to form something of a government. And this guy is on his way out. Even if he forms a government, it will absolutely not last. He won't be there for long, because as soon as he gets into this Sun Dasha, which is the ruler of this house, he will need to move into the background. He will need to move away from the limelight. So I hope